Composting the Eve way. All urban farmers know composting is good for the planet. Like reusing and recycling, composting is just as important. And if we all did these things, the world would be a much healthier place. When I compost, I mince my organic matter down to teeny pieces. With my yard mulcher, I try to do this with all my yard materials as well. The more surface area exposed on your organic matter, the faster the composting process happens. If you do vermiculture, breaking down your organic matter is a good thing to do for your worms, especially if you want your composting process to go much faster and be more nutrient rich. I break my food scraps down with my PC. So many acronyms I know, and PC certainly doesn't stand for personal computer. PC, when referring to Eve composting, means power composting. I'm certainly not the inventor of this thought, but this particular PC unit I don't think too many people have ever done before. For my PC, I use a garbage disposal tied into a few recycled buckets. Like many ideas I have, when I Googled the thought, I find awesome people doing similar things and then sharing their ideas freely online. The power of open sourcing is amazing and will be a key component in the world to come. In the very near future, we'll be sharing everything with one another because we'll know we're one big global family, taking care of one another and the life that surrounds us that we so depend on. When I Googled composting with garbage disposals, I found one guy doing it. His name is Thomas Colin. Thomas is an incredible person who has this not-for-profit organization called Solar Cities, where they work with biogas. Their mission statement is what the world needs and is in line with myself, the Venus Project, the Zeitgeist Movement, the Free World Charter, and so many other groups and individuals who share our views. This massive, growing list of concerned people are the positive change we want to see for our world. Most urban farmers, I feel, are in line with these people as well. I'll add a link to Thomas's important work in the description. Thomas posted his composting video when he was in Germany a few years ago. His garbage disposal was in the backyard where he brought all his food scraps. There he minced his organic material and put it in his composting pile. Thomas claims it takes 3 to 6 days to turn into usable soil. He calls his setup the Composting Companion, which I think is a great name. I've added a link to his video on the Composting Companion as well. My PC unit is mobile, so I can break down my compost anywhere. In the summer I do this in the backyard where my garden is, and in the winter I do it in the basement. I follow my aquarium where I do my aquaponics. Wherever it's located is where I do my power composting. Again, being mobile, you can do it anywhere, even in the kitchen where your food scraps are usually made and water is available for smoother power composting. Using my fish water output, I regulate a small amount of water to help lubricate the materials as it goes through the PC. On the output end of the PC, the materials fall into a fine nylon mesh paint strainer. That's over a 6-gallon bucket where the liquid is separated from the solids. The nutrient-rich liquid eventually is added to my Eve watering regimen. I let my solids dangle for a while as the last of the liquid runs through. Then I put this moist, minced compost in my Eve composting bucket where it gets aerated to help even more with the breaking down process. It remains in my Eve bucket till I'm ready to make some Eve composting rolls to be put into my Eve units. A Eve composting roll is similar to a jelly or Swiss roll, but instead of using dough, jelly, or cream, I use newspaper, paper towel, paper grocery bags, old cotton t-shirts or similar material for the dough. This is the carbon or dry material, and for the jelly, of course, I use the compost that's been minced up and somewhat aged by my Eve Power Composter and then aged in my Eve composting container. This is your nitrogen. All your nutrients are wetness worms enjoy. Carbon and nitrogen all wrapped up into a nice neat roll worms love as much as many of us love jelly rolls and Swiss rolls. I add these rolls to each section of my Eve units and towers. It takes no time for these red wigglers to turn the whole composting roll into worm castings that many of us urban farmers know is like gold for organic growing. 3-4 weeks go by, and I'll add another to the unit to keep the growing worm population well-fed, because a well-fed red wiggler equals a well-fed plant as these worms aerate and fertilize. As I water my towers, this water passes by the composting roll, picking up all the goodness these heavenly creatures create, and then feed the plant root systems at the same time it's being watered, self-fertilizing in a completely organic way. If your eave towers are packed right, the nutrient-rich tonic coming out of each unit looks like well-fermented kombucha and has a faint earthly smell. This precious irrigation, of course, is never wasted, saving every drop for the next watering. As I've said in other videos, with Eve, the water coming out of each unit is more nutrient-rich than when it was initially added, and the composting roll is the main reason why this is true. These composting rolls are great for self-harvesting your red wigglers as well. These worms, as much as they're eating and creating worm castings, they're producing more worms as well, increasing worm population, so you have to take some worms out at times because there are too many. What an awesome problem to have. Composting rolls fill up fast. In a few days to a week, a roll will be full and ready to be harvested, to be added to another eave tower or put aside in an eave composting container to increase your worm population even more. Eave composting seems like a lot more work, I know. Composting shouldn't be this complicated. And if you've got a lot of time and plenty of space, as most traditional farmers do when they're dealing with their compost, then by all means, compost the traditional way. Certainly less steps to just throw your organic matter in one pile and let the master of simplicity, Mother Earth, do the rest. However, urban farmers in many cases don't have the land traditional farmers have. The advantages I feel with power composting is rather than waiting for your compost to decompose, sometimes taking many months to a year, with Eve composting, your compost can start working for you right away. You add your compost directly to the plants you want to feed in the form of a composting roll. These rolls turn your compost alive in a sense. As the worms break the compost down, they're moving around inside your eave towers, again, aerating the soil as well as adding their garden gold. I feel this composting method could be done in your apartments, condos, high-rises, far easier and cleaner than traditional composting. No need for outside composting piles that many city dwellers don't have room for in the first place. Power composting greatly reduces your compost, so it allows more compost in less space. These power composters could be tied into our sinks, similar to the way most garbage disposals are already. With a turn of a switch or a valve, rather than having this compost go to city sewers, you could easily direct it to go to a container of some kind. When this container is full, you add the minced compost to your eave composting bucket that allows air in for aeration, but no bugs as the bucket is designed this way. They stack too to take up very little space, and if done right, there is no smell. This eave composting method is all new for me, and this video, like Thomas's composting video, is about open sourcing this composting method. I feel the eave composting method could hold some promise for urban farming. A great alternative for city dwellers who wish they could start composting, but again have no room for composting piles. When I say eave growing will be the go-to urban growing method, the eave composting method is another reason why this will be. I feel I have a right to call it eave composting, not necessarily because, like Thomas, I use a garbage disposal to break up my compost, but because of what I do with my compost with these composting rolls that I add to my eave towers. These rolls are like giving your plants an organic vitamin pill that is always working. Instead of Miracle-Gro or some other expensive synthetic fertilizers, these rolls are all natural, free to make for yourself, and alive. Opening up a composting roll to see firsthand the living world found within, for me, is amazing. Man and nature working together for a healthier planet. Composting is far better for the planet than buying synthetic fertilizers that these corporations are making. I'll be doing more videos on how to make Eve Power composters and Eve composting bins made from recycled buckets in the very near future. Composting rolls, I think this video shows clearly how to make, but I can do more videos if there's an interest. The Eve composting bin has 5 urban farming functions. It's a composting bucket, a worm bin, a black soldier fly harvesting bin, a bokashi bucket, and it is a personal privy. Don't buy buckets, my friends, as there are millions being used every day that are used only once, and then they're discarded, sent to God knows where. These buckets are many times better than what Home Depot, Lowe's, or Walmart sells, being 90 millimeters thick rather than 70 millimeters thick. you certainly can feel the difference. And personally, I feel the white looks better than the blue or orange these others sell and have their unsightly logos on. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like. God bless. Over and out.